Yeah, cool.
Yep.
Thank you. Okay, so before we get started, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Deepa Subramanian. Today, the agenda is going to be, I've just split it across into several topics. So I just wanted to start off with, because this is a beginner level, I'm assuming that you do not know anything about Project Fugu. So the agenda is going to be, we'll start off with what is Chromium browser and how Chromium and Project Fugu is related. And we'll talk about some of the Fugu APIs and its implementation and what's new with Project Fugu. And we'll wrap it up with a Q&A after the session. I believe that it's going to be after an hour. So before we get started, I just wanted to set the stage here. What is Chromium browser, right? Chromium Chrome is built on Chromium browser. So it was initially developed by Google, and later a small community joined and started contributing it. So it's an open source project that is managed by the Chromium team at Google. So you could say that Chromium is a subset of Chrome, right? So these are very common Chromium-based browsers where you have Chrome, Electron, Edge, Microsoft Edge, as well as Opera is also one among them. So now moving on to Project Fugu. What is Fugu, right? So Fugu means in Japanese, it's a pufferfish variety, and it becomes a food when it is cut in a certain manner and cooked, and it becomes a delicacy. But however, if you cook it in the wrong way, it can become fatal to humans. So likewise, Fugu APIs must be used appropriately, as it could be a threat. So Project Fugu comes under Chromium project, and it's also open to all Chromium contributors and organizations, right? So what does Project Fugu aim for? Project Fugu is mainly it's an effort to close the gaps in web capabilities, enabling new classes of applications to run on web so that people can build great experiences around the web. So who are the companies involved, right? It's a collaboration between Google, Microsoft, Electron browser, Samsung browser, and then Intel. Intel. Why Intel? Intel is not a browser. They don't have any browser, but Intel makes about 60% of hardware devices around the world. So Intel is also involved in this collaboration with Project Fugu. And if you take a look at this, what are the APIs that is if you go to Fugu Tracker, there are a bunch of APIs that has been already shipped. There are some of them are still under a developer trial, and some are still in consideration. You could also join this forum, and there are about 50 to 55 APIs that has already been shipped. And if you want to try out the new ones, you can also use the developer trial, which can be found behind the Chrome flag. And there are several more APIs under consideration, right? So you can also visit this website, Fugu Tracker, to know more about Project Fugu APIs. So now let's move. Let's shift gears, and we'll see what are the Fugu APIs, right? So I will be talking about these APIs for today, but there are so many more. But I thought, okay, I'll just pick up the ones that is very widely used and that you might be familiar with as well. So before we dive into this, we'll start off with the very first one, which is a service worker API. Service workers are special type of web worker APIs, which has been around for a while now. So these are APIs that run separately as a separate thread against your application. Service worker interface provides a reference to a service worker. And this API is commonly used for building progressive web app, where it acts as a network proxy, handling all the requests and response. And note that this API could also work with other APIs such as a background sync, notifications, and basically it does a background sync. So that this has been around for a very long time now. So how do you implement this? First, you need to register as a service worker with Navigator interface. And then service worker goes through a life cycle. Once you get it registered, it gets installed, and it listens for events, and then it activates based on that. So understand that this goes through a life cycle. If you want to know more about it, I have a progressive web app talk as well. I've given it at Geekle too, so you can check out those videos. So this is something that I wanted to mention. There are a lot of APIs that may or may not be supported by different browsers, right? If you see on the left, these are the platforms and the browsers that APIs support. And on the right, you have this mobile browsers too, the ones that you found it on the phone. So if you see most part for this API, everything is in green. So it has been supported by a wide variety of browsers as well as platforms. So understand that whenever you are trying to use Project Fugu APIs, either you programmatically check whether the browser support is there, or you could also go into this website called as caniuse.com. So I can pass on these slides, and if you click onto these images, you would be taken directly to the URLs as well. So now moving on to the next API, it's Web Share API, which by its name, it implements that it provides a mechanism for sharing text, links, files, and etc. Right? If you see at the top of this image here, you have a cat image, and if somebody wants to share, you use this API, and it uses something called this navigator.share method, where you could share the title, text, or the URL, and then based on what browser you're using and whether it has support, you can share it with native system application. So once you open this, the share options come up to you, and then here in this case it says Gmail, and then Gmail opens up. So this is something. This is exactly how it looks. This is a demo. If you go to a Web Share API in Google's blog, you would see this demo, and I took a screenshot of this. So how would you implement this, right? So this API has two methods. One is navigator.canShare and navigator.share. So if you want to make sure that you want to share, you can use this canShare method first, and then you could say navigator.share. Right? So if you use this mechanism, and it will open up the underlying operating system, and it passes specific data. Here we are sharing the details such as URL, text, and title. So make sure, and also we are having a callback mechanism saying that, oh yeah, if this if this method is not supported, we also have something to say, hey, it's not supported. So this is what I was trying to say, that it returns a promise, and if the data was successfully sent to the shared target or not. So make sure that you handle whether the browsers can support it or not with a fallback mechanism. And again, this API is, if you see on this lighter green ones are still in experimentation. So although the darker green ones are supported, so if you see Edge is supported, Safari is supported, and there are mobile browsers that support this Share API as well. So moving on to the next API, we'll talk about Screen Wake Lock API. Like its name suggests, it prevents from dimming or locking the screen when the app needs to be continuously running. So think of it, the examples would be if you're using a web-based presentation app like this, right? Or a kiosk. You go to a store and there's a kiosk present there, and where you have to order items, and you don't want the app to go you don't want the app to go on sleep or something like that. So that's one of the options. And there are some other examples that I could give. There's one more. It's a recipe application where people could, keep the screen on and lock the API, lock it using this API, and they can have this application running. So there are three steps to implement this API. One is, first you need to request wake lock. And then once you're done, you have to make sure that you also have a implementation for releasing the lock. And if the user wants to relock it again, then you have to reacquire the lock. So these are the three steps you would use for implementing the screen wake lock API. So here's a implementation. If you see, the wake lock request method is a promise-based, and so we can create a asynchronous function which in turn updates the UI. So here we are saying that, okay, if it is, then you have to activate the screen, right? So and it reflects the lock and sees that, oh, okay, let's activate this, right? And make sure that if it's not, for example, if you're working out of a laptop or if you're using a mobile device, in that case, you also need to handle error messages that are related to battery, etc. And then how do you release this lock? Using wake lock.release. So, and then if you want to reacquire, it's the same thing where you can add an event listener and to listen the changes and reacquire lock using the same method that we used before, which is wake lock.request. And here's an example. This is an example that I picked up from Google's blog. It's called Betty Crocker, where if you see in this, there is a toggle button which says keep the screen on. There are two of them here. So once you enable these, it's supposed to keep this application running at all times until you go turn off this toggle. So again, what are the support here? It's widely supported by most of the browsers except Firefox here. And we'll move on to the next one, which is the Contact Picker API. So it provides, like I said, like it says, you can share contacts from the contact list, but make sure that this API has to be used with care. Whenever you are trying to select a contact, only one of them should be selected. So this has to be handled with care. So when would you use this? For example, you want to send a message via an email, or you want to share your contact with social media, etc. In that case, you would use this. And navigator.contacts is an interface that returns a contact manager object instance, and which in turn calls this select method to provide the contact details. So that's how it brings up all the information. So here is an example. This is again from one of the demos in the blog. So if you see, you can select multiple. This is on an Android device that I took a screenshot of. So you can select multiple contact. What are the things that you want to use for picking up the contact? So I selected most of them, and I did this. Chrome is asking me whether I should allow to access these contacts or not. So note that when I do that, it is only selecting one of the contact that is there. So that's something that you might have to consider when you are using this API. So there are other ways. This API is still under experimentation. If you see here, I picked this up from MDN. Note all these browser support can be found in different places, either in Chrome blog, or if you go to MDN, or you can use Can I Use as well. So if you see, there's only support for Chrome Android, And there are some others, Samsung Internet and Opera Android as well. So none of the other, if you see the desktop platform does not support this API yet. And it's still under experimentation. So now moving on to badging API, this is one of my favorite ones. I use it all the time on my phone. So it provides a way of setting a badge on a document or an application, and it acts as a notification that would just let the user know that it has that the state has changed without displaying more distracting ones. Like, I don't like those alerts or alerts that pops up on the notification tray. So I like to have it as badges. So these are some of the ways that you could also implement this. So if you see, there is this has been supported by Microsoft Edge, Microsoft as well. If you see, Microsoft has this is an example from Twitter and one more app. And if you go to Project Fugu's documentation, where you can download this particular demo app, where you can give where you can set the app badges to be, and then once you install this, it would show this app with the badge as well. So also browser tab, if you have noticed, if you had gone to Facebook or Facebook Messenger on the browser, sometimes it shows up the number of messages that you have received, or posts or feeds. So this is something that it can be used for inside the browser as well. Again, how would you implement this? You would use a method called set app badge, which is very evident where you can set it. And then once you have it, when the user visits the page or visits the app, you have to clear the badge. So this is something that I wanted to show. And these methods are supported by, if you see, mostly the support is for mobile, and there's some of them are still with Chrome and Edge, which is still in experimentation, right? So moving on to the next API. So we'll talk about File System Access API, which allows files and folders that the user can select from the operating system itself. So you can, what are the use cases? You can open a local file to read, edit, and save, or you can open a local file to edit and autosave, and you can create and save as a new file, or you can also delete. So this has to be, again, handled with care, because you're dealing with files inside the operating system itself. So here, if you see, we have to mention what are the acceptable types when the user if they want to use a file from the system, from the operating system, or from the device. So you have to mention what is the type that it can accept. Not all files can be accessed, so that it does not get accidentally deleted, right? So here is, we use this method called window.show open file picker, and it opens and it lets the user choose the options here. So if you want to create a file, what you would do is you have to use you can use create writable method, and then you can save it using window.show save file picker. So that way you can save, and make the note that here we also have to say what is acceptable type of this file, right? And this API is still under experimentation, because not every browser vendor or platforms are willing to, or they don't want to take a risk off. So it's still under experimentation. However, if you want to check out, or if you want to, there are a lot of demo apps that are available that I will share it at the end, so you can check out how it can be implemented. So there are so many more APIs. I think you might be familiar with these: push notification. There's also shape detection, which has text, face detection as well, and QR code detection under shape detection API. You have web USB, payment request API, geolocation, and there are different ways of handling files. There's an API for that, web Bluetooth, and then app shortcuts. You can have eyedropper API and web OTP as well. There is, like I said, there are a bunch of APIs that have been released, and there are a bunch of APIs that are still under trial, and there are a lot more to come too. So Project Fugu enables new experiences on web. However, it preserves the core benefits of web based off of security, low friction, and and it's also available in cross-platform too. So all Fugu API proposals are made in open and on the standard tracks. So if you want to see what is the status of Project Fugu, you can visit this website and see what is the status around this and what are the APIs that are yet to come. You could also submit your own proposal here. So to get involved, you can get involved and do experimentation as well. But however, you need to register for those. So I said that there are some of the APIs that are still available behind the Chrome flag. So you would probably use this flag inside of Chrome and say enable experimental web platform features. These are some of the trial APIs that are still underway. It is not shipped, so if you want to take advantage of it, you can go probably experiment with these. And there are something behind trial. These are new APIs that people want to have in web. So, however, you have to go register for this, and not every proposal gets accepted, but that's something that they have a process for going through each of the proposals and see whether it can be implemented or not. So I did say that at the beginning that if you want to see what are the apps, there are a lot of applications that uses Fugu APIs. If you go to this Project Fugu API Showcase, a website, and you can also sort by the API that you want to. There's a bunch of them that has already been used. And if you see here, there are some listed as well. So you can go take a look at it. And if your application needs one of these APIs, you could go see how it can be implemented, right? I did say about, you can see in different websites where you can go check out either Chrome blog or NDN docs, or you can also go to caniuse.com to check whether the API is supported. But if you don't have the patience, you can also go to this website called whatwebcando.today. And if you just open this URL, and it'll give you right away whether your browser supports these features or not. It says here, so this is from my device here. I have a Mac OS, and this was in Chrome browser. It says that, yeah, local notification, push messages, etc. is there. And some of them are not there. So for example, inter-app sharing is not there. And I can also, NFC is not there. So these are some of the things. And if you see, contacts is also not there. So you can go check out if you want to just go visit what are the support that you have on your browser, right? So what is the future of Project Fugu? Web has more capabilities. There are a lot more APIs to come. And most of these APIs are still under experimentation. Not all browser vendors support these APIs. So let's cook this new Fugu right? So that's something that I wanted to say. And if you go to this YouTube video, there are a couple of things that are announced during Google I/O. They still have file handling, and there are some of the applications that use Fugu Advanced API as well. So I have a bunch of blogs about this on my Medium. If you are a person who doesn't want to watch video, and if you want more detailed implementation or how it's being used, I have blogs for this. So you can go take a look at it if you want to. And so far we covered what is Chromium browser, how it's related to Project Fugu, what are the companies that are involved, and we did talk about few API implementation and more about the project itself and the direction it's taking to shape up. And if you have any questions, we'll come back to the questions session. And thank you so much, Geekle, for giving me this opportunity. And thank you, Andre, for having me, hosting me here. And I have shared my slides if somebody can share it, that'd be great. And thank you, Nick, for having me here again.
Thank you, Deepa, for your talk. It was so interesting. I have some questions for you in the QA. So thank you. And all the people that have any question or doubts, please write the question. And at the end of this blog, we will discuss all the questions with Deepa and with the other speakers.
I shared my slides, and if anybody wants to take a look at it, they can. Thank you.